Vera Goes to the Dentist. This book has some of its pages in the wrong order. So I'm going to try to read them in the right order so the story makes sense. Monday morning, Vera's mother said, "We're going to the dentist tomorrow." Vera smiled. When Mother took June and Elaine to the dentist, Vera's father stayed home with her. Maybe they could walk to the schoolyard and fly her new red and yellow kite. She hoped the wind would be good. This time, Mother continued, Vera has an appointment too. Vera wasn't sure she wanted to go to the dentist. She would rather fly her kite with her father. But she knew she was growing big, and big people went to the dentist. "Don't worry, Vera," said Elaine. "Dr. Knoll is nice. You'll like him." The next morning, Vera put on her cowgirl skirt, which always made her feel strong and brave. Father waved goodbye. He was staying home with baby Ruthie. Vera, her mother, and her big sisters rode on a bus. They got off right outside Dr. Knoll's office and went into the waiting room. Vera thought the waiting room was pretty. Green seats lined its sides, and tall mirrors hung on the walls. Vera's sisters picked out books and magazines and sat down to wait. Vera did too. A wooden door opened and a man came out. His cheeks were puffed up in a funny way. Vera could hear whirring noises and water running. A woman in a white coat said, "June, Dr. Knoll is ready for you now." Vera glanced at the pictures in her book. Her legs stuck to the seat, and her hands were sweaty. Vera walked around the room and stared into all the mirrors, wondering if June's cheeks would puff up in a funny way like that man's. A little later, Elaine said, "Vera, let's play tic-tac-toe." So they did for a while. Finally, June came through the wooden door. Her face looked normal. The woman in the white coat was behind her. "Elaine," she called. Elaine went through the door. Vera would be next. June smiled into a mirror. She held a new purple toothbrush in her hand. "Look at my beautiful white teeth," she said to Vera. Then June sat and read her book. Vera waited. She wished her turn would come soon. After a long time, Elaine came out clutching a yellow toothbrush. "Vera," called the woman, "it's your turn." Vera followed her through the wooden door, just like her sisters had done. She led Vera to a big chair. Vera sat down, and then the woman pressed a button. The big chair rose up. Vera felt very tall. The woman tied a white bib around her neck. "Dr. Knoll will be right with you," she said. Vera looked around. There was an enormous window in front of her. Lots of bottles and jars were on a counter near a sink. There were some machines, and it smelled funny, like minty medicine. Finally, Dr. Knoll came into the room. "Hello, Vera," he said with a friendly smile. Dr. Knoll washed his hands, put on rubber gloves, and covered his mouth with a white mask that he tied behind his head. "Open your mouth, please, and we'll have a look inside." Vera opened her mouth. Dr. Knoll came very close to her. His glasses gleamed. He shined a light into her mouth with one hand as he held a tiny mirror in the other. Then he poked around her teeth with a pointy tool, but it didn't hurt. "Everything looks just fine, Vera," said Dr. Knoll. "Let's clean your teeth and you'll be all done for today." Vera looked out the window at the fluffy clouds crossing the sky. She smiled to herself. Going to the dentist was easy. "Open, please," said Dr. Knoll. Vera opened her mouth again. Suddenly, she saw a whirring machine on a long handle coming closer and closer. It sputtered pink flecks. Vera shut her mouth tight. Ouch! Yelled Dr. Knoll. Vera had bitten his finger. She was so frightened, she jumped all the way down from the big chair. Vera ran past the woman in the white coat. She opened the door and rushed past her mother and sisters and all the green seats and the mirrors. Then she opened the front door and sprinted down the walkway to the street. Vera knew she was too little to cross the busy street, so she sped along the sidewalk as fast as she could. She turned the corner and looked behind her. Dr. Knoll, the woman in the white coat, and Mother, June, and Elaine were chasing after her. They raced down the sidewalk in a long line. Vera turned the next corner and two more after that. But now she was in front of the dentist's office again. She didn't know where to go, so she ducked under the bus stop bench to hide. Dr. Knoll came huffing up to the bench and sat down. He pulled a big red handkerchief from his pocket and wiped his face. Vera, Dr. Knoll panted, please come out and sit down beside me. It's all right. I'm very sorry I scared you on your first visit. Vera slowly came out from under the bench and sat down next to Dr. Knoll. I've never had to chase a patient all the way around the block before, Dr. Knoll sighed. This is a new experience for me, too. Vera looked at Dr. Knoll. He seemed hot and tired. In a small voice, she said, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bite your finger and run away. Why don't we go back and try again, said Dr. Knoll. He held his hand out to Vera. Everyone had now caught up, so they all went inside. Vera climbed back into the big chair, and Dr. Knoll made it go up. Then he washed his hands and put on new gloves and his white mask. Dr. Knoll carefully showed Vera the whirring machine, and he even let her put her finger on the little rubber wheel that spun round and round. Vera thought it tickled. Dr. Knoll dabbed pink toothpaste on the rubber wheel. Vera opened her mouth, and Dr. Knoll polished all her teeth. He gave her a white paper cup and showed her how to fill it with water from a small faucet next to her chair. Vera rinsed her mouth and spat into a tiny sink. Dr. Knoll untied Vera's bib and pressed the button to make her chair go down. No more leaping off, he laughed. Then he opened a drawer filled with new toothbrushes, all different colors. Vera chose a green one because that was her favorite color. You certainly earned this toothbrush today, Vera, Dr. Knoll said. He walked her out to the waiting room. Will you come and see me again? Yes, said Vera. Thank you for cleaning my teeth. Goodbye. They shook hands. Vera looked at her bright white smile in the mirrors as she and her family walked through the waiting room. She held her new green toothbrush up to admire it. Going to the dentist was not the same as flying a kite with her father. Vera hoped she could do that on Sunday. But today it felt nice to have sparkling, clean